One of the fun things about me buying a large proportion of the laptops on my channel, myself, is that I get to buy cool stuff. This here is a laptop that I imported from China over AliExpress. If you're looking for it, by the way, at the end of this video, I'll put some links in the video description to the seller I used. I also have some other ones coming. I actually bought 4 Chinese laptops. Why would I buy Chinese laptops and not, Canadian or American laptops? Because these SKUs are not available in the West. This is a laptop you cannot buy in the West unless you import it. This here is a Lenovo Xiaoxin 15. This is a brand new 2025 model. It doesn't use brand new 2025 specs for everything because this is meant to be a very budget friendly laptop. This thing cost me, I think, it was about 800-ish US dollars, something like that. And that's like out the door, like at my house, $800 US for a brand new laptop here. And when you get into the specs, you'll see why that's pretty impressive here. This is meant to be a laptop that's very budget friendly, very, very budget friendly in the Xiaoxin line. In China, the Xiaoxin is basically yoga. Is that what we call it over here? It's like the yoga line, Yoga Slim, Yoga Pro. That's basically what we call them over here, I guess. Maybe IdeaPad Pro, but technically it's like yoga, I guess. Which in Canada, US, Europe, and that, the yoga stuff can vary a lot. But typically it's, they're nice. They're generally pretty nice laptops. This one here is in that Xiaoxin or yoga lineup from the Chinese market, but it also is going to be on the more budget-friendly offering. There's something about this laptop that's kind of like the secret of okay, why would you buy that though? You can just buy a laptop from here. Let me tell you. Well, we'll start with the overall specs here. It's not going to be an all-metal chassis. It does have a lot of plastic on it, but it is robust feeling and it's incredibly light as a result. The internals are not shockingly amazing, but again, low cost, low weight, but still has the performance that you'd want. Good port selection overall, just generally pretty nice laptop, good, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to spoil the whole video, but what sells this laptop here? What sells this laptop? And this is why this is not a Canadian or American laptop. This is a Chinese import. 165 hertz OLED screen, 1600p, and fantastic color space. Yeah, you're not going to find a budget offering like this with this kind of price tag with that kind of freaking screen in a market like this. So let's jump into this laptop and I'll show you why this is actually really cool and something you may want to import depending on what you're looking for. Okay, let's check the specifications of this laptop here. So we'll get into the basics. We do have the 8745HS, which is a rebrand of the 8845HS, which is a rebrand of the 7845HS, 7840 HS, so yeah, it is what it is. It's a great chip. They're just recycling it. It's a fantastic chip. And you get access to the 780M graphics, which is the same graphics that are in the Legion Go and the ROG Ally. So yes, you can game on this laptop. Absolutely. 8 core, 16 threads. So you'll be able to get some serious work. I'm not talking you can you can do some work on it. I'm talking yeah, you can do video editing, 4K video editing and all that kind of stuff on it. This is the chip that I use more than any other chip since I've done YouTube, we'll put it that way. I've used this chip or a variant of it more than any other chip. And most of my videos have been done on that chip or variant of it. 16 gigabytes of RAM, single, but it is running 5600 mega transfers. And yeah, it says slots 2 used there. You can upgrade it if you want, right? So it's going to run at the effective speed that you are interested in there. But yeah, that's just something to be aware of. If you want to upgrade it, you're only going to have access to that singular stick there. So you're going to be, increasing it that way. So, you can't put in, I don't know if it would support it, but you couldn't put in, easily put in 96 gigabytes of RAM or something like that because it's one stick. You'd have to get a 96 gigabyte stick. I don't even think that exists, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't support it. But, pop in a 32 or something like that and really increase your performance there. But we can see here, it is running... it's seeing 2 slots, basically 2 slots. The GPU, iGPU is going to steal some of that RAM. So you can see here we're only getting 13.8 because the GPU is stealing some of it. If you're going to be using this for a lot of gaming, seriously, because it's capable, obviously, you may want to add a little bit more RAM. Get yourself a 24 gigabyte stick. You can easily find those. They're not that expensive. Pop them in, and then your RAM is higher, and then the GPU can take a little bit more RAM from your system and still be fine, not choking off of that. So that's a nice thing to do there. It's optional though. Wi-Fi, fast Wi-Fi 6, you'll see when we get there. SSD, I don't actually know what that brand is there. So the screen on the laptop is very good. For some reason, you can see that flicker. That's just my camera. You can't see that in person. It's a very nice screen. It is 165 hertz, or dynamic, we can go 60, but 165 hertz, 1600p OLED screen with a good color space. What the hell? Like in the West, this laptop would be 3 times the price because of the screen, or they just wouldn't sell it. They just wouldn't sell it. In the West, I mean, most brands, they're like, it's a budget laptop, so we're going to put a 45% NTSC screen on it that's 1080p and has a peak brightness of 100 nits. And somehow is glossy despite that. Like that's what they do in the West, right? I'll be totally frank, the Chinese consumer, at least from my experience, from all the laptops that I've seen and speaking to people who are Chinese consumers, are much more picky and much more aware of screen technology. They will not buy laptops with shitty screens, right? Unless it's like incredibly cheap. They're not interested. So the fact that, this is a budget laptop, they're cutting costs down quite a bit by, going with certain materials, single NVMe, a single SSD, single RAM slot, a few little things here, keep the cost down by putting a little bit more plastic than metal. That's good. But then they're like, yeah, but we can't screw with the screen. No one's going to buy it. Okay, and there's the laptop there. We'll take a moment to look at it. This chassis is not available in the West. We just don't have it. The lid might look like some of the other Yoga Slim type stuff, but it's not exactly the same because it actually has this like kind of premium plastic bottom. Premium and plastic might seem like they don't go together, but this, in terms of plastic, it's a premium plastic. Put it that way. Very, very thin, does not show up on camera. It would be at most as thick as a MacBook Pro. It actually has a very similar profile to a MacBook Pro, like actually legitimately. It kind of looks like one other than the ports, other than having ports. Look at that dunk on Mac out of nowhere. Yeah, so that's that there. I mean, the top here, it's going to be plasticky type material, but it does keep the weight down. This is actually a premium feeling material up there. And then on the bottom, we do have, that plastic, like I said, 2 pieces totally. There's not a piece that goes around. Like I said, it's very thin. Weight on this laptop is actually quite good. Again, not having too much metal and keeping the components fairly streamlined does keep the weight down. 1506, so just slightly over 3 pounds for a 15-inch laptop. That's very good, actually. It's very, very good. And the build quality is good, right? Nice and rugged, nice and robust there, and rigid, right? No flex on it at all. 0 flex, to be honest. Basically, if it's metal, you might think, oh, it's going to have more flex. It's going to have less flex if it's metal, but that's not necessarily true. We do have camera bump out here. That's good. So you're going to be able to physically kill that off, and you'll be able to facilitate a slightly better camera with less bezels. It doesn't have the flat bezel style. It has the plastic trim piece. That's that. Inside here is nice and sleek. Again, it's not going to be an all metal chassis or anything like that, but it feels premium for what it is. Keeping the weight down, keeping the cost down. Keyboard here is a traditional yoga style keyboard. Although this one has the textured keycaps. They have 3 different styles. They have a rubbery kind of one, a smooth plastic one, and these textured ones. The actual keyboard is basically the same, but otherwise it's just the keycaps. No glass trackpad, but also very smooth there as well. Very good. And screen wobble is non-existent really, unless you really give it, right? Like you get that back there. It's not a touch screen, so it doesn't matter, right? But, right? If you're actually just moving the desk, you're not going to get that much wobble. Move the desk. I guess if you punch the laptop, the screen will wobble, but otherwise that's fine. And the hinge feels tight, so that's good. Ports are good, shockingly good on a laptop of this size. You do get a barrel plug into power, so they're proprietary one. However, it does also charge off USB-C. I've already confirmed that. You do get USB-A, you get HDMI, you get the USB-C, not full function, but it is fast otherwise for like storage and that, and basic docks, you'll be fine. Microphone, headphone, combo jack, nothing on the back. And then on the right side, power, you do get a full-size SD card reader. You get another USB-A, so pretty good port selection. And then you do get a CMOS reset. So if you ever, screw up a setting or something, you can go like that. So that's looking pretty good. Come in here, we'll do a little typing test here. So the keyboard, like I said, is kind of the same style as most of their IdeaPads and Yogas. Relatively low profile keycaps. The keycaps are relatively low profile. Still like a physical larger keycap than a Mac. And they have pretty good travel, honestly. You can see that there. There's good travel on them. Right? You do have a Copilot button, unfortunately, but otherwise it's a pretty nice layout. You do get a dedicated numpad. It's not a 16-inch laptop, it's a 15-inch laptop, so there's a little bit of shrinking over here, and these are quite close to one another. They do shrink these buttons just the tiniest little bit, basically to allow a 15-inch laptop to have a full numpad, which is nice, right? This is probably for someone who wants to do just like, do workflow professional tasks and that, but don't want to buy some expensive business machine. They're often very pricey. That's nice. Speaker grill up there, just basically a little bit of accent there. You do have your dedicated function embedded in these keys here with the volume up and alternative. So you can use function that, or you can lock it like that. So now the function keys go like that and your volume up, volume down. Very good. Let's give a quick typing test here. Okay, so it's a really nice keyboard. I mean, I'm relatively used to it. It's slightly different than the other Yogas and Xiaoxins and that I've been using on and off for a long time, but it's basically the same. I'm using a ThinkBook right now, Lenovo ThinkBook, also imported from China, and it's basically this keyboard here without that, and a little bit slightly different keycap texture, but the actual keyboard's good. This is my preferred keyboard. This like setup and feeling of it, I prefer the other keycap on my ThinkBook because it's like a rubberized one, but it's otherwise exactly the same. So it's one of the best keyboards on a laptop you'll find, which is nice that you get a budget offering like this, but it still has such a nice keyboard. And then the trackpad is smooth. It's not glass or acrylic or anything, but it is smooth, and it has very accurate. I mean, most trackpads are really accurate these days, and the click is nice. It's sharp. I like it. Okay, let's get into the laptop here. The Xiaoxin and the, I guess, Yoga over here, IdeaPad, at least most of the IdeaPads, and a lot of the ThinkBooks, they all use these style screws, which are these star styles. Okay, so I actually just used my fingers. Once I got that in, I just pulled from there. Just want to be a little careful because there sometimes can be a little bit stuck on the ports here. Just, not always, but just, it's possible. So you just want to come in here and just feed along like that, just a little bit, like that. Yeah, look at that. So again, the bottom is plastic, but it's this kind of firm plastic that Lenovo and some other companies use that actually gives a lot of rigidity to the device, but also keeps weight down. So it actually has very little flex, in some cases actually less than metal. It's actually a fairly thick plastic material, but it is quite light. So that's something to be aware of. This stuff is like pretty resilient. It might crack before a metal would crack, but a metal would bend before this one would break, because this one would just bend a little bit. So it has ups and downs. It's actually, I mean, I've seen it a fair bit on these laptops here. Looks like the RAM right here is going to have a little bay. Very nice. And there's a look inside. So interesting design. You can definitely tell that it's going to be trying to keep costs down a little bit. We do have a single, so I don't see really a problem putting a single stick here. That's how they're keeping costs down. So just be aware of that. If you want to go from 16, you buy this and you want to go from 16, you would need to get like a 32 single stick, which yeah, you can buy them. They're readily available. Just get yourself a 32 gigabyte stick and you're good to go. Otherwise inside, I mean, again, we're looking at, I guess, the attempt to keep weight down and cost down, but still offer a premium package otherwise. So we do have a little bit of empty space in here. They don't really need to put more in there. They're using the motherboard daughterboard setup here, which actually keeps the weight down. This thing, like I said before, is incredibly light. You get that out of a lot of OEMs, actually. When you're going into the stuff that's not super expensive and meant to be light, they go this route, so that's good. Battery is actually decently sized, 60 watt hour, so they didn't put in some like 40 watt hour thing. Again, they could put in a slightly larger one. Then the weight would go up and the price would go up, so there's a little bit of a trade-off there. Pick your poison. We do have actually dual NVMe, which is nice. They are 2242 size, but there's two of them. So you can put in this one, leave this one for your operating system there, and put in a second one. I mean, 2242 can easily get up to 2 terabytes. It'll be slightly more expensive than a 2280, but I mean, they're readily available. So you pop that in there, and all of a sudden you have your operating system. Just leave it. It's fast. Spoiler for later, but it's fast. And then, get a drive like that. So It's not hard to take up the storage on this device here. The cooling solution is actually pretty robust, considering this is just an 8745HS, which is the same thing as an 8845HS, basically. We do have a large fan right there, and it's that style where they're kind of curved from Lenovo. I'm not sure if it improves airflow, but it definitely does reduce air turbulence and therefore air noise. So you get no whirring and no irritating noise out of that fan there. This is a common one that Lenovo uses. I prefer it because it's much quieter and much less annoying. That's the biggest thing. Let's go up. Very good color space right off the bat. Let's actually increase that resolution. Very good color space right off the bat. Right, you get those nice rich reds on a wide color space. If this was an NTSC 45 screen, it would look like crap. We don't have that issue here. Nice reds, nice and vibrant. Nice vibrant reds. Skin color looking healthy and alive. Blacks are OLED black because it's an OLED screen, right? Not touch screen, right? So it's a glossy OLED screen. I guess they could put a non-glossy, but again, they're trying to keep the costs down, but still put a really nice screen on it. So that's really nice there. Another area where a high color space screen excels is in the greens. So you'll see here, let's actually turn that up slightly. We'll go above because YouTube like de-renders stuff. So the greens are looking real rich here. Right, very rich greens. Like the plants look healthy and alive. On a lower tier screen with worse color space, this comes out yellowish and dead. Legitimately. You can watch some of my videos, just go back. Right, this is a living organism here. There's grass and mosses here. They're green in real life. Right, this should not be a yellow mess. And there still is yellow. It's not getting rid of yellow. Right? It's just not making everything yellow. And then, of course, like I said, the reds. The reds aren't coming out as like a weird pink-orange color. They're red. So the screen is truly freaking outstanding, and one of the reasons you would buy this laptop is it's like, well, I didn't pay that much money, and I got this incredible screen with a laptop attached to it. Like, this is the type of screen you want to watch movies on, right, and play games and stuff. Like, it's so good. Okay, fantastic. The audio, I'm not too sure. We'll have to see. I haven't turned it up, so watch your headphones. It's coming out here. The speakers are okay. They are very middling. I would give them a 6 out of 10, which is fine. They're not going to be, there's not a lot of low end bass. That's the biggest thing. There's just like, it's just not there, but there isn't like no bass. There's just not a lot of low end bass, and they're not as loud as some speakers, and you know, they're not quite as rich. You don't have the same richness as you'd get on like a Lenovo Yoga 9i Pro, right? This is like, technically this, I guess this is like an IdeaPad Slim Pro or a Yoga Pro or a Yoga Slim. That's technically what they call it if you translated it to the American or Canadian or European market. So it's like, you know, it's in that lineup, but it's down the stack a little bit. So they're not going to put, you know, the Yoga 9i Pro speakers in here, which would be way better. But it's fine. Like, just on a laptop of this price, business level laptop, it's pretty much exactly what I would have expected. So that's good. The screen is fantastic, actually fantastic. Receiving audio or receiving visual from the screen is amazing, and the speakers will get the job done. If you're watching shows, doing that kind of stuff, they're going to be totally fine. They're not bad by any means. But if you want a really rich media experience, you're going to be using this incredible screen as your like primary media consumption, and you're going to be watching a lot of movies, you may want to get a speaker or a set of headphones for that. Okay, so we're in performance mode here. Let's check what we get for primarily thermals and watts and noise. We'll see what we can get here. This is an HS processor, so it can technically do a bit higher watts, but I feel like they're going to, you know, keep the watts a little bit lower on the system here. Let's go like that there. Yeah, so they're speccing the watts down slightly. You know, they're not letting it get all the way up to like 35, 40 watts or above because it's not the most robust cooling solution. Right, so we're at 25 watts. So if you compared this to, yeah, I guess like something like a Legion Go or an ROG Ally X or something like that, this is like kind of where the performance would be. They're like roughly around this, right? So the 8745HS is going to be very efficient, so you're going to get pretty good scores at those lower watts. Not even close to thermal throttling. So I mean, theoretically, they could allow it to go a little bit higher watts. So right now, it's, you know, it's 25 is obviously how they spec this out to be like sustained wattages. I suspect it could do more, honestly, because you can see here we're at like 52 and 62 degrees. It's nothing for the CPU. But there's a reason why they're doing it, and that's because they want it to run relatively quiet. So they're going to be putting in not the most crazy cooling system in the world, but they don't want it to run, and they don't want it to run noisy or hot. So yeah, there is a little bit of performance being left on the table in terms of that chip, 8745HS. A little bit being left on the table in terms of the wattages there, which would affect scores slightly here, probably 20% or something, or 15%, but they're doing it so that it runs quiet. Now, let me show you what I mean here. Right, and we're only at 43 dB, which is very, very acceptable for a laptop like this. The fans are not absolutely ripping, so there's no whine, there's no coil whine, there's no whirring, there's no irritating sound. So it's able to keep itself relatively cool with that single heat pipe setup and a single fan, right? I've had this same chip in like another Xiaoxin, for example, the 14-inch Xiaoxin from last year, which had a dual fan and dual heat pipe, and they let it go full watt. They're like, yeah, sure, you can have 45 watts in that one, because it had twice the amount of cooling. So it was able to keep that down. Here, if they wanted to add more watts, it would start to get really noisy. And they don't want to do that, obviously. Like, that's not the purpose of this laptop. It's still going to be very capable. You can do anything on it, honestly. I mean, these scores are going to be not reflective of the actual benchmarks because we have this open, but it'll be pretty close. Like, that's you can do a lot with those scores there. Honestly, most of the time, just leave it in silent. You don't need it to be in balanced or performance. Right, and now we're getting down to like approaching my noise floor. My noise floor is about 34. Okay, we'll just look at a few benchmarks here. So we're starting off here in performance mode. We're getting 11,136. Again, as I mentioned in the noise section, this chip can do a little bit better than that, usually 13 or 14,000 under a full wattage scenario, but this is a wattage limited chassis. It's clear that they're doing it on purpose because this is still a very capable machine. Anything over 10,000 is going to be quite snappy for things like video editing, code compile. It's still going to be fantastic. So they've obviously made a decision to keep the laptop relatively quiet by bringing down the wattage a little bit there, but still going to give you pretty good performance. Then dropping down to silent mode, again, it does lose some performance there, but now it's quite literally completely silent, and we're getting almost 8,000 here in the Cinebench run. So again, you can run this thing in performance mode if need be. You can run it in silent mode. It's going to be really snappy overall, especially for such a budget offering. Then looking at the SSD that's included, again, I didn't really know exactly what this model was here, but we're getting mid-range Gen 4, so nice and quick. Gonna have no problems there either. Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is weird. This is pretty standard. It goes up and down, but it looks like we're getting about what my Wi-Fi will do on any given day, so very nice. Battery life is another area where this laptop can excel because this AMD chip is very efficient. Looking here just at full brightness, full refresh. I didn't put it down to 60 Hertz, so we're in the higher refresh here. Just kind of hanging out here in Windows, and we're getting around 5 watts burned, at this moment right now. So, I mean, it's going to range a little bit depending on what's going on in the background, but we're looking at approximately a 10 to 12 hour laptop just kind of doing whatever type tasks. If you're messing around in Windows, I mean, you're easily going to get 8 to 10 hours of daily, all day battery type thing here. And then looking at 1080p 60 YouTube, again, brightness turned up, everything kind of turned up there. And we can see the wattage here, not really much changed. Obviously it's going up a little bit from just idle, but we're only sitting at about 8-ish watts here, kind of hanging out. And once again, that's going to be good for around 10 hours on a laptop like this, maybe 8. So you're going to get pretty good battery life regardless of what you're doing. If you're looking for an all-day battery, something you can take with you to campus or to your, to work, business meetings, that type of thing, I mean, no problem to cross that, 6 to 8 hour threshold. Probably not going to be looking at 10 to 12 hours as much because it doesn't have the hugest battery, but overall it's going to have very good battery life. It's okay. Budget offering. Well, that was really, when I'm up here and it's dark, it's just like oversaturating or undersaturating, and then here it's normal. The color's fine. So the color looks fine. That's approximately my skin color, but it's definitely not a high resolution screen. I would say probably 720p, and then it's kind of doing some finagling to smooth it out so it's not a pixelated mess. But the color exposure is fine, and the polling rate is okay. So it's fine, but it's not going to compete with 4K camera or something, or 1440p camera on a laptop, but for the price, it's fine. Just be aware, you know, this is not the type of camera that you're like, I'm going to become like a famous Twitch streamer and I need to have the best face cam. It's not that, but it'll get the job done for generic business meetings with no problems. I mean, honestly, usually when you're at this price and you buy into a screen, they're just so bad. So we don't have that issue here, although it does like to make me green when I lean forward. Now, game is going to be more than capable. This laptop is going to be more than capable of gaming. Why did I say that? So weird. Because it's got the 780M iGPU and the CPU is more than enough. Now, basically whatever you do on a Steam Deck is going to run better on this. Whatever you do on a Legion Go ROG Ally is going to run at least as good, maybe slightly better on this because it's higher watts, technically. But yeah, we can see here it's running pretty well, right? Looking pretty good. Nice, beautiful OLED is always nice. Get that like that there. It looks so reflective on camera, but it's not in person. There we go. Now, we're at low here at 1600p, which is too much, realistically, for this GPU. You can add more scaling, and you can do stuff like that. Man, this is running really quiet. There we go. Performance mode. Right? Like, you're going to get a 30 experience here. I'm not going to do the whole afterburn thing, whatever. We know what it's 70. We know what a 780M can do in terms of iGPU and the CPU. I just want to see if we're in line with that. Look at that OLED. Like, we get those beautiful colors there. It's just, it's so hard to record an OLED screen because the camera keeps trying to over-adjust and under-adjust. Because when it's dark, you get like OLED blacks, the screen pixels are off, and then when you come to a light area, it turns on. So the camera freaks out. Just rest assured, it looks fantastic. We have high refresh. Honestly, look at the performance too, right? I know it took a second there to kick up, but we're at 50 FPS. We're on low with frame gen. Not very low, just normal low with frame gen. But we're at 1600p. We do have performance scaling. But I mean, it's really good. We're getting 52 here. You can't play Ghost of Tsushima at 52. And this game with frame gen feels fine. I'm even using mouse and keyboard because it's like there's always a little bit of animation delay when the guy moves anyways. Now, let's just try one other thing that you can do. This is proof of concept. Yeah, you can game. You can do AAA gaming on this, no problem whatsoever. It's not a gaming laptop, but it is also a gaming laptop. Does that make sense? We'll turn down the scaling here, but we'll turn also down the resolution. Now, because we have a 1600p screen, this is where things get interesting. You can use native integer scaling. This is not enabled right now. You actually do that in the AMD software. You go into the AMD software and you enable native integer scaling. But what happens then is when you're at 800p, it's half the screen pixel resolution of 1600p. So the game will look fantastic. Holy crap, look at that performance boost. So the game will look fantastic. This is how I play on my Legion Go, right? Now you're gonna get a little bit of weirdness. Like look at those funny little things here. So you wanna turn down the scaling slightly, right? You're gonna wanna go with something like even that, to be honest, quality. You probably don't need frame gen anymore. I mean, you can really do a lot once you start playing with native integer scaling. So native integer scaling is another option. You can just do 1600p, throw on FSR and some scaling, and frame gen, what were we at? We were at like 50, 60 FPS, and it was feeling nice and smooth. If you want higher FPS, yeah, just put it at 800p. Right? And you're going to have a good time, honestly. You're going to have a really good time with it. This with frame gen, we don't need it anymore. You can if you want, but I'll just turn it off if I can find it. Turn it off. Right. And now that weird kind of pattern that you might have seen a moment ago is going to be gone. And now we're at 53. So 800p native integer scaling, which I don't have native integer scaling enabled right now. It would look better with native integer scaling, which you do in the AMD software. But it gives us an idea of what the performance would be like. So you will get a big jump in performance and you won't need as much scaling. Personally, I mean, scaling these days, as long as the game has FSR 2.1 or above, yeah, I just use scaling. I just put it at 1600p and just you guys use more scaling because it looks better, right? So anyways, that's the story here. You're going to be able to do tons of gaming on this. Whatever you can do on a Legion Go or an ROG Ally, ROG Ally X, you'll be able to do on this probably at least as good. I mean, the RAM isn't as fast and all that, but you can add more of it. And the CPU itself runs at higher wattages. So yeah, it's going to run better technically. So you're gonna be able to do all kinds of AAA gaming. You're just gonna be doing like moderate settings, right? It's not like it's doing compromised gaming and you're not compromising on the game itself. You're just changing the settings down a little bit. So AAA gaming at reasonable settings, very doable. Slightly older games, you know, games from 2020 or below are gonna freaking fly on this system, right? So there you go, gaming machine, weirdly, even though it's not, but it also is. Okay, so that's the review there. I've spent a couple days with this right now. It wasn't the type of laptop where I need like 2 weeks with it or something, because it is a Xiaoxin or a Yoga, I guess. Pretty comfortable with the chassis here. It's just, what's different on this one here. So what's cool about it and what's bad about it? Bad, I don't think there's anything really bad because everything is within context, right? Look at the price of the laptop. Look at the price of the laptop, brand new, out the door. Then you can evaluate. So we're not going to evaluate this compared to a Lenovo Yoga 9i Pro. It's not even in the same realm of existence. That laptop is 2 to 3 times more expensive, right? They're not even in the same realm of existence. In this price bracket, what are we getting here? Well, we're getting, the negatives would be, you're not getting any metal on it. So, it's possible to get some metal on a laptop around this price, but then you're going to compromise somewhere else. And the wattage on the chip is not very high. That's the biggest thing I'd say. They've decided to keep the watts lower, probably to keep it cool and quiet. But they did nerf a little bit off of that chip there, but it's still very performant. But that's the negatives, I would say. I guess single SODIMM, but yeah, again, it makes sense that it's in there. So where are the kind of middling ground stuff and then the positive stuff? Middling ground, again, plastic chassis, but it's okay because the price is okay. You're getting single SODIMM in there. I wish there was 2, but again, the price is okay. The cooling solution, I wish there was more, but then it would be heavier and more expensive. I wish there was a 2280. I guess that's one thing. 2242 versus 2280, it's a trade-off. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I would personally take 1 larger drive over 2 smaller ones. So I guess that's it. And the webcam is like, whatever. It's fine. It's like, it does the job. It is a webcam. That's about it. Now, positives. Negatives. I guess another negative is you can't buy it. You have to import it. But the seller that I use is fantastic. I've ordered, as of the laptops that are arriving later today, 10 laptops off of them. So yeah, I'm comfortable with them, but you may not be, but I am totally fine with it. And then, so the positives. So you get a really nice keyboard on this laptop, actually fantastic keyboard for what it is. Despite being plastic, it is very rigid. There's not a lot of flex on it. It feels nice. It's just generally nice, super light as a result too. Trackpad is good. Speakers are all right. They're very mid-range for what it is. Price, same, totally fine. Battery, fine. Good battery life, for the chip, what's in there. You do actually get upgradable SODIMM, which is nice. You get 2 NVMEs inside. It's fine. It runs cool and quiet. They're leaving a little bit of performance on the table, but they do that. And the most important thing is the screen, obviously. That's why I put it at the end, so you guys listen to everything. 165 hertz OLED is like, that alone is hard to find. Then on top of that, it has fantastic color space, which isn't mandatory. Like, you don't have to have good color space on an OLED. This one does. Very nice. And it's relatively bright. I think I might have, yeah, relatively bright as well. Not a dim OLED. And it's 1600p. So it really is a banger screen. Like, this is the type of screen that you're like, man, I'm buying this like really Halo laptop. And one of the major selling features of buying this really Halo laptop is this screen. Right? So they took this screen and they were like, okay, that's the selling feature of this laptop. The screen is incredible. Let's build a budget laptop around it so that you're not spending $2,000 on a brand new laptop. You're spending under $1,000 on a brand new laptop. And that's imported to the West. Like, this is like, in the Chinese market, it's gonna be cheaper, obviously. This is like including the company making money and also sending it here. Like, so this is a really low cost laptop. I'm sure in the Chinese market, this thing would be like pretty hot, honestly, because it's a fantastic screen. Overall, no real compromises, and the cost is crazy good. That's the Xiaoxin 15 is what they call it in, I guess, Mandarin. Over here, I guess it's a Yoga, but we'll just call it the Xiaoxin because we don't need to transliterate other languages. We just speak Mandarin. We say Xiaoxin.